Everybody else set at home?
Corey's a pretty level-headed guy, though, so.
Who's that?
Corey,
Is he?
yeah, very much so. Very, very calm, just like you, so, yeah.
Well, he indicated in there that he wasn't sure this was an issue that was in our wheelhouse either. So I mean, he's acting on behalf of his tenant or the tenant in the place.
Is everybody else set at home?
I'm just wondering if you can see me. I think I'm having problems with my
I'm not
video.
sure they can hear me. Can you guys hear me at home?
Yeah.
Yes,
No
Okay.
problem, Pat.
So
can't see you. No, there you are, Lorraine, but you're not looking so good.
That's crazy. I don't know how to fix that. I'm gonna
Oh,
go
there you are.
out. I'm gonna go out and then come back in.
Yeah, you're really fuzzy.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. I'm gonna leave.
Jason, you went to McDonald's already this morning?
Good morning and welcome to the March 10th, 2021 Committee of the Whole meeting. Starting at 9:06. We apologize for any delay. We had a bit of a technical glitch. Still working out a couple of things at the different homes. At this time, I'd like to confirm the agenda. Are there any emergent items from any of the councillors? Deputy Mayor Cox?
Thank you, Your Worship. I was hoping to add an in-camera item. FOIP section 24(1)BI.
Thank you. Are there any other items that councillors would like to add today? And anything from administration?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Administration would like to add an item under 9.1 urgent business, and that's the RCMP contract. And then also, we would like to delete item 5.1, the minutes, adoption of the minutes for January 13th.
Thank you. And I think we need a motion to confirm the agenda as amended. Oh, Mr. Legore, did you have a comment?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I apologize about the RCMP issue. We should have had that on the agenda in February and we missed it. My humble apologies.
Thank you very much. So we need a motion to adopt the agenda as amended. Councillor Corbeil makes that motion. And
I move the agenda as amended.
thank you very much. All in favor? And the motion is carried. We have no presentations today. We have no delegations. And I believe you did postpone this till the next meeting, Jen? Okay, the next part, okay. We have no unfinished business. So now, actually, we need a motion to go into Committee of the Whole. We have a motion from Councillor Bauer to go into Committee of the Whole, and I'll call the motion. All in favor? Thank you. And we have an item from administration. We have no unfinished business, no tabled items. We have an infrastructure update, 8.1, and Ethan Wilson is here, all ready to roll. Welcome, Ethan. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Your Worship and Council. Here today to give you a quick update on our department, kind of let you know what we've done in the past year, what we're planning to do this year and going forward, and some of the things that we're working on. So the infrastructure department executes the majority of the town's capital projects while also managing our major contracts and working closely with our development and operations departments in the items that they're working on. We are currently a team of 4. We've got Catherine Boddington, who is our development and project technologist. She does some project management, such as our Westridge Road project, and she also does new development reviews. Kelsey Wilson is our infrastructure technician. She does project management such as the Strathmore Lakes upgrades and also does a departmental design work. And then we've got Sonia Rigglesworth, who joined us last fall. She's our contracts officer with a focus on waste management, EPCOR, and our communications tower. In 2020, we completed 18 capital projects. That's not including the new Strathmore Municipal Building. As well as about $2.5 million in construction value. In the completion of all those projects, we were within our capital budget allocation, and each project was completed successfully. As we move into 2021, we've got a list of about 15 various projects, as well as EPCOR capital projects that are happening. This map here is a little bit small to see, but you can see we've got a good spread of projects throughout the entire town. And I can get into more detail if anybody has specific questions at that time. Our major projects for the year are Westridge Road and Strathmore Lakes. Westridge Road is a $2.6 million project for this year, which includes water, sewer, and storm upgrades. It also includes a roadway realignment and a heavy vehicle parking or stopping lane. This work is a preparation for landscape and beautification work, which will occur in 2022. We've had a lot of consultation with the business owners on this project, and the majority of them are supportive of moving forward. The other major project we have for this year is Strathmore Lakes, and this is the replacement of the outfall system. It currently does not function properly, and replacement of that is intended to help mitigate flooding issues that we've had there in the past. This work will be done in the 2021 summer. It'll likely be after the wet season, so we'll continue to pump if required and prepare the lake as needed for this project to happen with as little construction costs in regards to water movement as required. Some other projects that we do on an annual basis are our pathway development and life cycle replacement. This year's budget is $140,000, which focuses on mostly new pathways. The new pathways will be through Center Street Park, as well as a pathway through Cambridge Glen. This is kind of near the Sagewood facility and in behind there.
Ethan, the one that
Yes.
you're talking, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but the one at Cambridge you're saying is right between Sagewood?
Yes.
I believe Councillor Sobel's yard is there. Beautiful backyard. Maybe we could shoot through there.
We could look at that. And then the other repairs that we're going to do through this budget is some repairs to Kinsman Park, as we have some root intrusion and some general wear and tear. In addition, the yearly projects is our Rfb Crosswalk Program. This year, we've got a $27,000 budget, and we've got 2 locations lined up. One is at Archie Kleiber Trail and Ranch Ridge Court. This is kind of in behind the Rona and Walmart area. And another one is Strathmore Boulevard at Wheatland School Playground. It's a busy road with lots of young kids that we'd like to help protect the crossing. A somewhat new initiative for this year is we're going to do some design work for projects that we don't plan to do in 2021, but projects which we plan to do in 2022. The 2 projects that this will happen on is Ridge Road Storm Sewer. This is the section of Ridge Road between the Co-op Card Lock and the Co-op Gas Bar. It's a section where there is no stormwater infrastructure currently, and it's part of a few steps in getting more stormwater infrastructure to our downtown. The other one we'll look at is Willow Drive. It's utility main replacement of all utilities. It's been a problem area for the town for a few years and been on the list for replacement. So this will be the first step before we do full construction work in 2022. When I talk about our major contracts, we've got EPCOR. So EPCOR operates and maintains the town's water and wastewater systems, as well as do the regular maintenance activities. This includes flushing and other cammering work in order to ensure the longevity of the town's assets. EPCOR is also the first point of contact for water or sewer emergencies. The goal is to have the first contact to the customer within 60 minutes, and last year they were able to achieve that 97% of the time. EPCOR has their own capital projects, which they complete. Each year they have approximately $1 million worth of upgrades. 2020 was a successful year in which they were significantly under budget by more than 10%. This was due to COVID-19 and a lot of the contractors that they hire wanting to ensure that they maintain the work that they had originally planned on having. They were willing to drop their prices in order to get that work, and we saw the benefit in that regard. For 2021, EPCOR has some planned projects. Most of them are around the wastewater treatment plant, but it also includes an assessment of the Brentwood Reservoir to ensure that the lifespan of that reservoir can be kept for another few years before we need to move on to our next solution. But yeah, they've got about $1 million worth of work again this year. Waste management, they collect the town's waste and organics as well as operate our recycling facility. We are looking at doing some efficiencies with waste management this year. One of those is reducing our HIG pickups from 2 to 5, and that'll come to council here in the near future. And another one we are looking at is for the next winter season is whether we can reduce our compost service from weekly to bi-weekly to hopefully save some money as well. And then with recycling, waste management operates the town's recycling facility as well as disposes of the recycling as required. You can see that about 50% of the materials that they collect are metal with a close second or somewhat close second to corrugated cardboard. We are exploring some cost-saving alternatives with waste management in regards to recycling. Currently, some of our items, such as plastic, have a cost more than double of what it would cost to take it to landfill, so we're evaluating what other options we have in order to also save money. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you. One of the things I'm glad about is seeing Willow Drive on next year's plan. What I discovered as a teacher at Strathmore High before I took on this job The number of people who use that as an alternate route to get to places because they want to avoid the Westmount school zone. So I was amazed at, in the mornings and after school, how busy it was. So I think it's great. I think a lot of the residents there are going to really appreciate having services upgraded for them too. I know we've had to do a lot of patching, or EPCOR's had to do a lot of work there. Questions from councillors? I see Councillor Corbeil and Councillor Montgomery.
Thank you, Your Worship. I do have one quick question. Ethan, thank you for the report. You said that most of the businesses along Westridge Road are fine with the upgrades and are in support. What are those not supportive about that are against it? I don't need to know names. I'm just kind of wanting to know why some wouldn't be in support of this project.
Your Worship, and thank you, Councillor. The Westridge Road, the beautification portion of it is the only contentious item. We're planning to add trees, shrubs, a pathway, and even some benching and seating area. The concern that we've received is about highway visibility, seeing as these businesses are directly on the highway. What we've done to help mitigate that is we've spread trees to a minimum of 10 meters apart. Some businesses, we are looking at spreading trees farther apart based on what business type they are, and also looking at ways to ensure that the beautification is more at ground level rather than higher up, and to avoid that highway blockage of view.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Corbeil. Councillor Montgomery, then Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you very much for this report, Ethan. One thing, and perhaps it was just my hearing, but it sounded like you said that you're looking at reducing HIG from 2 to 5. So I obviously probably just misheard that, but could you clarify what you actually said?
Your Worship, I apologize if I did say 2 to 5. I meant 5 to 2. We currently do it 5 times a year, and we are looking to see if 2 would be acceptable to the town and continuing to provide that service.
I see. Okay. Thank you. And then I have a question about the protective services temporary expansion. Is that still going ahead as planned, or is that kind of changed to a different plan? Because I noticed that it looks like they're set up in the old town office right now. Is that correct?
Your Worship, through the chair. The protective services relocation is something that's being looked at as far as where they need to move to and what is the best option. We're currently evaluating a couple of different options. So currently they are in the old town hall, and that was in order to vacate what is the trailers, I'll call them, so that they could be prepared for moving if we decide to do that. But at this time, a decision hasn't been made on where municipal enforcement will be moved to.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Councillor Montgomery. Councillor Bauer.
Thank you so much, Your Worship, and good morning, Ethan. I have just a question about continuing on with Councillor Corbeil's line of questioning with East Ridge Road. What are some ways for us to come to some type of agreement with those business owners that are not in favor of the beautification in front of their properties? Is there a way of providing them more space for parking in the back, or is there another alternative? Like, what have we done in terms of coming to some type of consensus so that they're starting to become vocal? And I'm worried that some of these business owners, they have the right to go public, of course, with their opinions, but I would much rather be proactive and see if we could meet them halfway and try to mitigate some anger that might be, brewing under the surface.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship, through the chair, and Councillor Bauer. So we've been working with these business owners for nearly a year now. It started out with a plan. That plan was very basic in terms of rebuild the road and do beautification. And we got some pushback, which was understandable. And one of the main pushbacks at that time was parking. Not so much parking for smaller vehicles, but parking for large semi-type vehicles We have a couple of car dealerships which receive deliveries. We have a couple of heavy-duty repair places in which you might not need to use their lot in order to stop and pick up something. So we were able to make adjustments to the design, and that included a parking lane along the road for heavy vehicles. It will be limited in time. We don't want somebody parking there all day or overnight, but it did solve that problem for the business owners, and we've had good feedback from everybody on that regard. The only remaining outstanding item is the beautification and the highway visibility. I would say we're down to 1, 2, maybe 3 businesses that are concerned with the visibility from the highway, and we've been working with them directly on how to improve their visibility or limit the disruption that the landscaping would do to their visibility. And I'm confident that we'll get to a resolution that works for them.
Thank you very much for your answer. I appreciate that. I appreciate you working with the business owners so diligently. With regards to Strathmore Lakes, I understand in your report we put in $645,000 to make that lake function properly. Does this ensure that it will not flood again, so we won't have to put that equipment in to pump the water out or anything anymore?
Your Worship, through the engineering design, we're going to assess the lake. We're also going to complete a bathymetric survey of the lake, which will let us get a better understanding of how big that lake actually is. So with that, we'll be able to take the information of how big the lake is, how much water we expect to come into the lake, and therefore size the outlet properly to drain the lake as required. So that is the end goal, is to ensure that the replacement doesn't require future pumping.
Thank you. And I had to look up that word bathymetrics. I had no idea what it meant. I just want to ask also, with regards to Archie Kleiber Trail, I've been driving down that roadway late at night, or actually, Archie Kleiber Trail goes east-west. No, I'm getting it confused. With regards to infrastructure projects going forward, is there a possibility, if I was to submit some light standards on George Freeman Trail? It's very, very dark at night. Would that be something that you could potentially look at when you do the Archie Kleiber Trail reconstruction? I'm sorry.
Your Worship, through the chair, the Archie Kleiber Trail project is just the installation of an Rfb this year, which is our rectangular rapid flashing beacon at a crosswalk. But by all means, if there's a location in town where streetlights are required, or we feel that they're required, please let us know. We'll evaluate that as we do our capital budget and include it where necessary.
I'll do an admin inquiry. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. I have Deputy Mayor Cox and then Councillor Peterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Ethan, I just need more clarification as well on the beautification part of Westridge Road. If they don't want it, why would we spend the money on it?
Your Worship and Councillor Cox, it's not that they don't want beautification. They do like the idea of having a beautified roadway, of having a pathway. The main concern is the blocking of their view from the highway. So it's just finding alternate ways to ensure that the beautification is continuous throughout that road and not look patchy and inconsistent, while also maintaining visibility.
Okay, thank you, Ethan.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Peterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Ethan, just a quick question on page 4 of the report under the wastewater treatment on the geotube removal. It's a $140,000 item. Is that the piece of equipment that removes the biosolids? And I was just wondering how often those have to be. I assume that a removal means a replacement. Is that what that is?
Your Worship, Councillor Peterson, the geotube removal is an item that was used in the past that we no longer use. It was part of the wastewater treatment plant before we were chemical-based in terms of removing or cleaning our wastewater. So it's an item which is historical, no longer used, and it just simply needs to be cleaned up in order to keep the site safe.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you, Ethan. And before we let you go, I have one last question just about Westridge. Pathway, is that to be done in 2021, or is that part of beautification for 2022?
Your Worship, the pathway is planned to be in 2022, but if for some reason that the budget this year allows us to do it, we will do it.
Yeah, my only reason for asking is I see so many people walking on that road now, and I always worry about their safety.
Yeah, so do we.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your report and your comments. That brings us to Land Use Bylaw Consolidated Low Density District Update. Chuck Proctor is in the house.
Your worship,
Councillor Peterson?
do we need to move to accept the report for information?
I don't think so because we're in committee of the whole.
Right.
So
Right,
I think we're good. Mr. Proctor, are you all set, sir?
So good morning, Your Worship and members of council. I've just got a brief report today on just a land use bylaw consolidated district that we were working on earlier in 2020. I just have 3 quick slides this morning, and then I'm happy to have a chat and answer any questions. So in 2020, a consolidated low-density land use district was presented to council. This was going to be a new land use district in our land use bylaw. The new district was pitched at combining elements from all of our existing low-density districts. Later in the fall, we informed council that we were no longer pursuing this district. The intentions were good, but staff believe there are just too many opportunities for risk and error when we base a new land use district off our old ones. Some of the potential risks and issues with creating a new land use district based off our old ones, it reuses policy which may have flaws and errors. The new district didn't solve too many problems, and it may create more problems than it solves. It also creates another district which will require tracking and maintenance. Developers will still need to apply for a land use district, and instead we could have, slightly modify existing districts if we need to, and that's kind of a short-term solution. These slight modifications, often called a district overlay or direct control, would be easier to manage and a safer option to carry us forward to when we have a new land use bylaw in place. And just my last slide here, talking about next steps. So we're not recommending that we proceed with this low-density consolidated district. Instead we should get a new land use bylaw updated, refreshed after the municipal development plan is completed. Shortcomings in our current land use bylaw can be better addressed if we kind of start fresh rather than expand existing potentially flawed policy. In the meantime, staff will continue to work with developers to address land use needs at the zoning and subdivision stages. And just our quick recommendation today is information for council. So thank you so much. I'm happy to answer any questions on this one.
Thank you, Chuck. Are there any questions from councillors? Councillor Peterson?
thank you, worship. Mr. Proctor, I was just wondering, so when you say we'll wait till we have, till the MDP is ready, I certainly agree with that. Would you think that then we wouldn't have a low density consolidated district at all? Or might we have some form of?
Thanks, Councillor Peterson, for the question. I guess the answer would be, I think let's wait until we have a new land use bylaw, being drafted, and then maybe we can incorporate some of the changes that this low density district proposed to solve in our new land use bylaw. Rather than expanding potentially flawed cookbook, I like the cookbook analogy of a land use bylaw. Instead of expanding potentially flawed cookbook, let's get a new cookbook in a couple of years and kind of address the problems that this hoped to solve in the new edition of the land use bylaw, which should come after the MDP. I don't know if we'll have a specifically consolidated low density district in the new land use bylaw, but I can tell you that one of our aims is to make sure that the districts in the new land use bylaw are better, and that we shouldn't have run into this problem where this demand is arising. I hope that answers your question, Councillor Peterson.
Well, I think so. So just as a follow-up, when we were first presented with this, one of the pros that they gave that was given to council was that this would create certainty for developers, and I certainly see that you have, in rethinking this, that might not be the case. That you're thinking that you can bring better certainty. And one of the other issues that was brought up was that a low density mixed housing area would also allow for better planning in terms of school use for school areas. And so I guess my concerns going forward, we have no schools on the horizon, so that's not a problem. But on the issue of certainty, you don't foresee any immediate difficulties for developers in that area regarding low density on the land use bylaw at this point.
I think we have Jim who can offer something as well, and we can go to Chuck again too.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through to council. I just wanted to point out too that whatever comes forward in a new or an amended LUB, it will require approval by the CMRB as well. And as you probably know and read with the draft plan, they're asking for higher densities, not lower densities. So that may create a problem or an issue that we have to deal with the CMRB.
And I think if I could add to that, Jim and I talked about this briefly last week, and I think council is aware as well. That requirement of CMRB for higher density is something that we've bought into over the years, but having larger lot sizes in Strathmore can also separate us from other communities like Calgary and Airdrie, for example, and it can make us more attractive to potential people coming to Strathmore to live. So I'm not necessarily all that keen on being tied to high density if it's also going to affect how our town can grow and what we can offer future residents. So something we all have to keep in mind, but not for right now, I guess. Councillor Montgomery and then Deputy Mayor Cox.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you very much for this report, Chuck. I just wanted to say, I'm glad to see that that you guys are let's say willing to reconsider some of the things that that are produced, and to take a second look at things, and and when you feel that you could do things different, or maybe you realize that there's a better way to do things, or a less problematic way to do things, that you guys are letting us know and going in a different direction. So I really appreciate that you guys are doing that, and keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Montgomery. Deputy Mayor Cox.
Thank you, Your Worship. I also agree with with Jason, and I am very happy that you've reviewed all of this stuff. And I just wanted to add a little bit to what Jim was saying as well. Just if I recall correctly, part of the CMRB was also master communities. And I don't think that any of our density or sections follow that rule either. So that could also be a consideration as to whether or not we're going forward with that.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Cox. Any other questions for Chuck? Seeing none, thank you very much for your report, Chuck, and answering the questions, and Jim as well. Thank you. And that brings us to urgent business 9.1, RCMP 2021-2022 Annual Policing Plan. And Paul Salvatore is presenting. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning, Your Worship. As an annual request, the RCMP Detachment Commander has brought forward a number of items for your consideration to form the priorities for the 2021-2022 operational year for the detachment. Those items he's identified are number 1, reducing property crime; number 2, traffic law enforcement; number 3, application of crime reduction strategy; number 4, police presence and visibility; and community engagement. I should note that these priorities, unlike years past, are available for change throughout the year if necessary, if an emergent issue evolves throughout the course of the year, these can be changed to address that situation. And I provide them to you today for your consideration and direction to the detachment commander. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Any questions for Paul or comments regarding the policing plan? Deputy Mayor Cox and then Councillor Montgomery.
Thank you again, Your Worship. So, really hard because we just got it, but on the bottom of the report, it refers to the letter of expectation as 2021, and it's actually 2020. And so I'm confused as to, like, our 2020 letter says that communication is one of our priorities. And we all know that that didn't go so well in 2020. So should it be on our list as well for 2021?
I would leave that to your direction to include that if you choose to.
I would have to agree with Deputy Mayor Cox. I think last year was such an anomaly, but we also had we had a staff sergeant, and we did miss out on a lot of communication, and there were some presentations that didn't happen even via Zoom. So it's really important, I think, for communication as well. But I'll also turn to Mr. Legore, our CAO, and then after we can come back to Councillor Montgomery if you have another question.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Deputy Mayor Cox. We definitely should be including communication in our policing priorities going forward 2021. Certainly with COVID and regular updates to council are very important. So I think you should identify that as a priority. What we did is we provided that letter from 2020 to give you an idea what the priorities were for 2020. And when you look at them, you could almost approve the same priorities for 2021, I think. With that, nothing further to add, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Legore. Councillor Montgomery, did you have another question?
Thank you, Worship. I actually haven't asked a question about this yet.
Oh, sorry. I got confused.
Yeah, that's okay. So I guess my question is just like, does this, obviously we're not going to be voting on this today. So I guess, will this be coming back to us next week for, to be moved forward?
Your Worship, if you've provided that direction, we can take it back to council for consideration and recommendation next week. I was hoping that we could just get a general outline of your sense of these priorities. If there are any changes that you wanted to bring back, we can certainly do that. Thank you.
Thank you,
I see.
Paul.
Yeah. Like, unfortunately, I just haven't had a chance. You know, in the few minutes before the meeting that we got it, I haven't had a chance to review it yet. So I'll take a look at it and provide some notes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have Councillor Sobel, then Corbeil, then Bauer.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I, in regards to the communication issue, and I certainly think that should be a priority. I'm just wondering if we could include that under community engagement, even just to add a comment, community engagement, including municipal council. I know the focus is on trying to keep this list short, so that is the high priority. It does not mean that there aren't other priorities. It's the absolute main one, and I'm just wondering if we could include that. It's just a suggestion, but the one I find missing here. And this is really difficult because these are all very, very admirable projects to be focused on. But we do have an issue with opioid crisis in our municipality as well, as I believe every municipality is dealing with, and I think it has to be recognized mostly because of the end result of many of these excuse me, drug overdoses, which is death. And I know we've had we've had deaths in our community. So it's here, it's an issue, and I'd sure like to see something in regards to actions taken by the police in regards to the opioid crisis, considering they're usually first on scene and responsible for the investigation. That's all I have, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Sobel. I go now to Councillor Corbeil, Councillor Bauer following.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I completely agree with Councillor Sobel. It's a huge priority in my mind as well. My request was if they were we were looking for more direction or whatever, can we take 5 minutes so that I can review this thoroughly? Or, I tried to read it, what people are talking, but I don't think that that's a fair, I guess, use of my time or whatever else. Is it possible if we could take 5 minutes for this?
And if I could follow up on that, I'm wondering if this, is this possible that it could come to us for a decision on the first meeting in April? Would that be enough time for you to add a couple of these items and bring it to us and give us a little more time to read? Would that be doable, for lack of a better word? Paul?
Your Worship, I would just refer that to the CAO for his advice. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Legore, could you jump in on that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would suggest that council review this and we finalize it at the council meeting next week. We're supposed to have this in by the end of March, and that's why I apologize. We should have had it to you in February. But if you could review it and provide comments to us in writing, etc., and we'll finalize it at our council meeting next week, and then we can get it back to the RCMP.
I can do. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Mr. Legore, and thank you for your question, Councillor Corbeil. That brings me to Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just trying to get my ducks in a row and read this while we're having the meeting. So I'm so thankful to the other councillors for asking their questions and allowing us to have some more time on this. So thank you, CEO Legore, for that. My question just deals with visibility. In our community, it says here that we would like the RCMP to have officers involved with community groups, focusing on youth and seniors. Although I do agree that youth and seniors are important, and I would certainly love to see a little more when they stop their cars and pull over to that basketball court on Brent Boulevard, and they have a pickup game of basketball. The kids go crazy. I'd love to see more positive interaction with our youth on a, ad hoc basis, like really spontaneous, walking down the halls in the high school. Right now, what happens is as soon as a cop car pulls up, all the phones start dinging, dinging, dinging. Everyone's like, oh, someone's in trouble. And, it kind of, we all know that there's something going down and it's something bad. And I would love to see that perception change, that, when our RCMP officers come, it's to, talk to a student or mention something positive that's happened. We have positive kids doing things, so many things in this community that are well worth talking about, and certainly worth a nod, from a policeman or just letting them know that they're doing the right thing. And the other people that we have in this community is vulnerable populations. And the police have done such a beautiful job. In my time with the Strathmore Overnight Shelter, I saw changes with the way that our homeless population was treated. I saw, positive stories, or I heard positive stories of, just police officers really showing their caring side when bringing clients to the shelter and going over and above, and I would like to continue that. I'd like to have it as part of this MOU because it's a positive, and I don't see why we should not be highlighting and continuing positive things that are happening. So those are my two things, sense that I'd like to add in. And I look forward to seeing this again next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. Councillor Peterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. The one thing that I'd like to ask, because I don't know if it's a possibility to do within this document, and I don't need an answer today, just for consideration coming forward, would be some of the joint initiatives that have happened with our local RCMP have been very, very useful in terms of addressing major issues. I speak specifically to the rural crime initiative that started. But I'm thinking about there is opportunities to work together to address the opioid crisis, which certainly isn't just a local one, but if that could be somehow looked at as an overall initiative, and if there is an opportunity for us to impact that in any way, that's a question I would have going forward. And as I said, Your Worship, I don't need to have any answer on that today, but I really I echo Councillor Bauer's work. The work with our high risk populations by the RCMP have been phenomenal. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Peterson. Any other comments? Councillor Montgomery?
Thank you, Worship. I just wanted to, I guess, expand or perhaps respond to the points about the opioid crisis. I attended a seminar a couple of years ago where they discussed the opioid crisis and some, they offered, not really solutions, I guess, but they kind of analyzed, some of the ways of handling it. And, unfortunately, the police, it's one way of dealing with, basically part of the problem. It's really one of probably the lesser effective ways of dealing with the opioid crisis, unfortunately. And so I think that, and that's not to say that we shouldn't be asking the police to be, doing what they can. But it's just important that we not, assume that we'll be making any sort of outsized difference by targeting it from the enforcement or the punitive side. We need to also probably be looking at lobbying, other levels of government to handle this from the let's say the demand side. There's the supply side, and that's what the police are for. But the supply side is there because there's a demand, and we need to figure out, the ways to properly deal with the demand. Because if we don't deal with the demand side, then as soon as we take out a supplier, another person is going to step in basically and fill those shoes. And yeah, so there's other ways that we should be looking at. And so I would like to have a serious discussion about other ways that we could be handling the opioid crisis that will probably or possibly be more effective than simply just asking the police to crack down on people who are supplying them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Montgomery. I have Councillor Corbeil and then Councillor Peterson again.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I'm not going to get into a debate about how the police can influence this. I wasn't just meaning that they could influence it with the punishments and stuff like that. Like, I was hoping that they would be able to also educate, if there are the people that are caught, there are other ways besides direct fines and punishment on the enforcement side with the police. But like I said, I just wanted to kind of clear that up. I would actually like to have a debate on what we could do with this, but that was my views for the police side. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Corbeil. Councillor Peterson?
Yeah, just following up, thank you, Councillor Corbeil. I just think that the police have more than just an enforcement role, and certainly, in my work with the Sixica recovery strategy for the last year, RCMP have a big role to play outside of enforcement, and just the length and breadth of the capacity that they have goes far beyond that. Alberta set a record 904 opioid deaths last year. Strathmore was not immune to that. So I know that Councillor Corbeil's work in SWAT work with the local schools, as Councillor Bauer mentioned. All of those things can form a collaborative strategy. And so I think that the police are one element in that, along with a broader collaborative process. And if we can somehow build that in a meaningful way into our expectations, I think it would be terrific for community, and it would give community a footing going forward, and a capacity for everybody to become part of the solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. And now we go to Councillor Bauer. I think you're muted, Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm sorry about that. Thank you for allowing me to speak again. I just have a question for Mr. Salvatore. If he could please let me know if it would be advantageous for us to also include our MOU with Siksika in this letter and reference the RCMP MOU with Siksika. And the reason I'm asking that is because, well, not only has it been ratified in 2020, so it's a new document, but I also think that having it in writing really ensures that all parties are going to continue to highlight that document and highlight that special relationship that we have with the chief and the councillors of Siksika, and continue the fine work that is being done right now. And so I don't want that to get lost. So could he please comment on that? Thank you.
Your Worship. I can assure you that the town of Strathmore, the CAO, myself, Councillor Sobel, and others are actively engaged in that process to implement the MOU with Siksika, and on an ongoing basis that is occurring. I will certainly point that out to our detachment commander for his consideration as well, and look forward to your comments as we approach next week's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul. Councillor Peterson, did you want to have a final comment? No? Okay. So I guess we'll say that this will be coming back to us. We'll get some information in the meantime. This will be coming back to us on March 17th. Thank you very much, Paul, for your report and your discussion. Now, a question to Jennifer. I just want to double check. Do we do the inquiry first? No. Okay. So at this time, I'm looking for a motion to come out of in camera. I have a motion from Councillor Sobel to come out of in camera, out of committee of the whole, sorry. A motion to come out of committee of the whole at 9:53. All in favor? And then we're looking for a motion to go into in camera. Deputy Mayor Cox says no.
Yeah, hi.
Oh, sorry.
I'm good.
Okay, so we're in the public portion now, so now we do the admin inquiry, correct? Okay, thank you. So administrative inquiries, I believe that's in your agenda package. And Mr. Simpson, are you speaking to this at all, or?
Yes, I can. I don't know if I have much more to add than what's already been provided in the response to the administrative inquiry. We are aware of Lakewood possibly coming forward in the near future with a proposal for their area. I guess upon checking into the various items that we had in the inquiry, I would note that it is sort of I guess the expectation of the town that developers will provide that first playground park in their development. Second and third ones, if necessary or required, the town can or may consider being involved in those developments. But again, it is the expectation a developer will provide that first playground park in their development.
Can you just tell me if that proposed park location is that northwest field? It's been sitting there with a lot of high grass for a long time with a few evergreen trees. I had been told that was going to be the park playground location, but it's obviously been there quite a while now.
You're talking about Lakewood? So what I have received as far as the Lakewood presentation it appears it would be in the east side of, it'd be located on the east side of their north development, that area.
So near the canal?
Near the canal?
Thanks. We have Ethan here going to
Sorry,
give
Your
some
Worship.
clarification.
Currently, there's a grass area kind of in the northwest of their phase one. That would be east of phase two. I think that's what Jim's looking at here.
Yeah.
And our understanding is that grass area, either as it is now or maybe even in a bigger version, would be approximately where the playground would be.
That's what I was told quite a few years ago, but thank you. Deputy Mayor Cox, then Councillor Bauer and Councillor Sobel.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thanks, Jim. I 100% understand where you're coming from as far as it being the developer's problem. I just know that basically what I'm looking for is there any way in which we can help them achieve that? Because it is in our best interests to help their development. I mean, they're having some struggles. I get that. Everybody understands that. But what can we do to help them get to or achieve what they need to achieve in order to sell properties so that we can increase our tax base? That's what I'm looking for. I think we had spoken when previously, I want to say almost a year ago now, well, maybe not quite, October-ish, about potentially lending them the money, having them pay it back, or somehow achieving this playground with our help, but not necessarily paying for it. That's what I'm looking for.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Council Cox, I think my concern, we'd have to be very careful in how we assisted this developer, because might be setting a precedent with future developers. It may also upset past developers who have paid for the playground park, the first one in their development. I think we certainly administratively can assist them in getting approval of their development and locations and that. But again, I would caution council in how you might financially assist these developers and be prepared. You know, I'm not sure how you could say we could do this for one and not for another one. That would be my concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Does that help at all, Deputy Mayor Cox?
Somewhat. Jim also communicated that this is the only development that doesn't have a playground. So right now, totally understand where he's coming from, but this is our development and we aren't encouraging any more new developments. So yes, I understand we could upset previous developers that have paid for a park, but I'm not saying that we pay for it. I'm saying that we somehow help them get a park. So are you thinking of in-kind services then that we would donate? Like, how do we help them? I don't know. When we talked about this previously, I believe it was Ryan that told us that maybe we could upfront the equipment and have them pay back once they've sold enough lots, or any way that we can encourage to get the park there as quickly as we can so that they can sell lots to pay us back.
Do we run into a precedent situation too if we upfront costs for equipment with the payback option?
Oh, for sure. I understand that.
All right, okay, so I'm not sure where we go from here then.
Me neither.
Mr. Mayor, through to you and council, my suggestion would be first to, hopefully Lakewood would come forward and make a presentation to council. They have, what I have received, it's quite a extensive proposal, if you could say that, what they want to do on their property. And I guess we would hear them out and go from that.
Yeah, and I guess the other aspect of it too, I would love to see a playground there and a park there. I am concerned about the precedent, even if we front the money and get paid back. There's also the consideration to the people who've bought and built there and may have children, and we're expecting playground equipment by now and haven't gotten any. So there is that as well. So it's not just attracting new people, it's giving the people who put faith in you and built or bought there that you need playground equipment for the existing children who are living there. So I guess I'm looking for a next step. What do we do as far as a decision on this? Any councillors have any comments concerning that would tie into what Jim's saying? Councillor Peterson?
Your worship, I know that in talking to some of the people in Lakewood that I think that they are very close to being ready to coming to council with a proposal. And I think that they have prepared an overview of what they're looking at. And I think that they have some phenomenal ideas that they're already pursuing. And I think we can, as Jim said, I think we can wait for them. I've had some of their work shared with me, and it's really exciting, and it looks like they're being very self-sufficient and very self-directed. And I believe that they'll be looking to come to council soon, but others probably have more information on that than I do, Your Worship. But I think we can safely say that they are on it.
Okay, thank you. I think Jim may have some more information on that aspect too.
Yeah, I just found out, and Jen can maybe verify this, but I understand Lakewood has requested a time next week to make a presentation. So I think the best thing is for council to wait for the presentation and as I say, hear them out and see what our options are after that presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. So that might help you, Deputy Mayor Cox, as far as your concerns for Lakewood Meadows. They're going to come to us on the 17th. Thank you. I have Councillor Bauer and then Councillor Sobel.
Thank you, Worship. I can certainly understand that the expectation of developers is different here in Strathmore than in Calgary. In Calgary, they have, like Councillor Cox referenced, master plan communities where they put in pathway systems, they put in infrastructure for lakes if there are any, docks, what do we call those, where you pull up your boat or whatever. And they put in like pathways all before the community is built. And I kind of have always thought that we do things a little bit backwards here, that sometimes attracting people to a community is showing them what they have, not what they're going to receive. And saying that it's the expectation of the developer to put the playground there, the developer has to go to the bank and they have to ask for money to develop the whole entire planned community. And with regards to Lakewood, they haven't been that successful. They only sold 4 lots in, I think it was a couple years. And then just recently now with all this additional signage down Highway 1, they've sold, I believe, 20. So from what I'm hearing, things are starting to pick up. But again, we're not in a time where, Strathmore's growth is growing exponentially. And so we have to help our developers. And so I would really like to, I don't think walking to Hillview is a good suggestion for little kids in order to get a playground that they should have in their community. I think that we do have money in the budget allocated to a playground in Hillview. The residents of Hillview already have a playground, and they also have a soccer field and multi other, recreational facilities. I think we need to look at where we're spending our money and whether or not we can, why not change precedents? Why not change and go with the times and help a developer, help our taxpayers, and let them get their feet off the ground there, and maybe loan them the money or make an MLU with them that, we pay for the playground and then they pay us back. I know they have the equipment. That can't be an issue. It's got to be, playgrounds are expensive because the safety features that are involved in a brand new playground, it comes with a cost. Then I just would like to know, has anyone even got an idea of what the cost of this playground is so that we're talking about a number? I don't know if it's 50,000, 100,000, or 150,000. So how much are we talking here? Does Jim know?
Well, maybe coming back to what Councillor Peterson said, if the Lakewood Meadows Community Group is coming to us on March 17th, we would maybe get a better understanding of how they're going to help achieve this playground, what their role would be in it, and then we can see if there's anything that they're asking from us. Does that sound all right to all council? Jim?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to council, it's estimated the playground park area would be about $80,000 to $185,000.
Thank you for that, Jim. So is council comfortable just holding off until they come to us on the 17th then? We can learn more about what they're doing? Okay. Councillor Sobel, I think you had a question that we haven't come to you.
Yeah, I forget what the question was, but I'm looking forward to the presentation next week. Thank you.
Okay, and Councillor Bauer, are you okay with that? Did you have another question, or is that good? Okay, and then we'll come back to Deputy Mayor Cox.
No, thank you, Your Worship. I'm fine with that. I just was going to make a motion for Jennifer for the rest of the things we discussed. Can I do that?
Yes.
I move that council accept items 8.1 and 8.2 for information.
Thank you very much for that motion, Deputy Mayor Cox. You've all heard the motion. All in favor? And the motion is carried. Are there any other administrative inquiry responses from admin? No. Okay, we have come to the conclusion of the public portion, and I'm looking for now a motion to go in camera. Councillor Corbeil has made a motion to go in camera at 10:08. All in favor?